Going to work on something today that I normally don't work on, and that's car audio. This is actually a DVD system from an RV, a motorhome, or a trailer. So it's a DVD player with a stereo system, basically runs off 12 volts. It's a DVD player. It's not a car audio, okay? If it was a DIN car audio, I'd be saying forget it, but this is a little bit bigger, a little easier to work on, a little more conventional. This one's got a disc jammed in it, and the display is out. Let's check it out. This is a Jensen, this is a camper radio and DVD player, and apparently there's a disc stuck in it and it doesn't work, so we're going to take a look at this and see if we can get the disc out and get the unit working. I've never worked on one of these before, so this will be a learning experience for me too, because I normally don't work on car audio. I have never worked on car audio. It's never anything I was interested in working on. Actually, that's not true. The first shop I worked at when I was in high school did car audio, but that was it. When I left there and went to Sony, I only did Betamax at Sony, and then I ended up at the other shop that I was at for 20 years, and we didn't do car audio. So I have worked on stuff in the past. It just was a long time ago. It was prior to 1980 when I worked on car audio. The fellow that took it out of his camper brought it to me with all the screws out, so just lift the back off this unit. On the back there's, or on the bottom, it's got all the labels for the wires, but I don't need to worry about any of these because I'm not going to be using it to power speakers directly. I'm just going to test it using the fixed audio output on the back and the video out to the monitor and the fixed audio outputs here, or variable but fixed. It has an audio input, auxiliary audio input. It has a optical audio input, so you can plug other stuff in. It has an HDMI out. The antenna goes there, but I'm going to be using that one. And we just need to get power, which I can do over at the fuse, and ground over to the chassis, or clip the power on the inside. Let's say the back is loose on it now, so I can pull the back off of it to take a look at the transport. It's got a CD transport or DVD transport down here, and the display is through this ribbon cable. So before ripping this thing apart, I want to make sure that there's enough slack on these cables, so I'm not going to rip anything when I pull it apart. I should be able to, that's an auxiliary input and a USB input, be able to just unplug these two, and that'll give me a little bit more slack. That one out there, take that one out there, and now I should be able to pull this out a little more to look at the actual transport itself. And I can also, of course, remove the ribbon cable here so it doesn't get damaged. So we'll just unplug this, either from the board or from the ZIF. The ZIF on this side is going to be easier. Unplug that. Now I can pull this transport out and eject the disc, which is in here. Over here we have a small belt driven pulley, so I can probably spin this one and that should eject the disc. If I can turn this. I think this is the one that probably ejects the disc. And the disc is coming out the front. As you can see, as I'm winding it out, Crossroads Guitar Festival. I think I've got that. Looks like someone's been trying to get the disc out with a pair of pliers, doesn't it? Okay, disc is out. Let's see if we can power this thing up and see what it does. There's a reason I disconnected it on this side as opposed to unplugging it on this side, even though this one would appear to be simpler because it's just a straight plug. This one's a zero force insertion, so you don't have to worry about damaging the traces, whereas these other ones here, you can only plug these in so many times and those traces are going to start to lift. So whenever you come across a connector where one side's got just a push-in connector and the other side's got a socket that you can actually release the tension on, or a zero insertion force socket, you always do the side with the ZIF socket. It just saves you headaches down the road. Okay, I'm going to have to find a source to put power into the fuse, and of course the other side will be ground, which I'm sure I can ground it over here to the antenna terminal. And this is probably ground out here as well. We'll just check it with the meter and see whether that heatsink is grounded. Chassis. Get the old fluke meter out here and determine that that is indeed ground. So my 12 volts can go down to one of the pins here. That's just going to be from internal stuff. So if I pop the fuse out, that'll be able to measure to see which side is the side I need to put. Well, I can put a wire in behind here anyway, just stuff it back in there. That'll be my positive. So let me just get a piece of wire. We'll stick a piece of wire in behind the fuse. That'll give me a place to clip my positive lead on, and my negative lead can either go to here or to there. For this, the old telco wire will do just fine. I think I told you guys where I got this. I found it in a bin, scrap bin at work. It's been probably sitting in a guy's truck for years. I'm thinking one of the business guys or something, because we didn't normally use orange slate wire at the central office. It was always white, blue for pot service, and special services were red, green, high voltage was red, white, and the original TV circuits, but when they were fed out of the central office, were blue, brown. ADSL, violet, yellow. I never ever saw any orange slate wire used ever. So I'm sure it was used for some specialty services that some of the business guys dealt with. And I think probably what happened is when one of the guys retired and he cleaned out his truck before, on his last day, he just threw everything in the bin, and that also included some obsolete wire, just for me to find. So I figured, if it's going in the bin, I'm going to take it home, because it's always nice to have some wire around when you need to do something like this. Set yourself up for a jumper to get power into an old radio. Just going to strip off a bit more insulation here. I'm wrapping it around the screwdriver so that I've got some leverage. Okay, we'll just take this and bend it in behind the fuse. And then we can take this and shove it back into the fuse holder, and that will give me a connection to get power in. Just like that. Now this is my positive terminal and my negative terminal over here. Grab my power supply leads, positive, and as I say, I can do negative just like that. Now it lights up. The display is quite dim here for the oh, you know what, the backlights are out. The backlights are out here. I got to replace a bulb in here probably too. If I shine a flashlight onto here, we can read it says FM 107.5. So I'll have to replace the light in behind here, as you can see. But first things first, let's see if the DVD player works. So I'm going to plug it into my monitor. And we'll select let's see here. I gotta figure out how to work this thing. It's in radio mode now. I guess you have to put a disc in it to have it detect that there's a disc. Maybe that's how it switches. Loading. Okay, now I've got video on the output on the TV. No, it's going to read. Well, that's good. Just the disc got stuck. I wonder if that belt was a bit weak. It's possible that that belt is slipping because it's working. Let's see if it'll play. It's got sound. So if I press the play button on here, play. How's that one? Okay, I'm going to try to stop this thing while we eject the disc. So let me figure out how to eject. Oh, there's a button on here for that. Let's see if it works. Oh, well, now the disc came out. But you know, when I first, I'm gonna put some lubricant on here, because when I first disconnect power, when I first started to work on this, when I first went to turn that screw, it was tight, like it was stuck. And I think probably what happened is there might be a little switch in here. So let's just pull this first, pull that out, pull away, and I don't know if I want to unplug the drive. But when I first went to turn this, it was stuck. It was wound all the way down as far as it would go, and it was at the end of its travel. And I think probably what happened is the belt was slipping. The belt doesn't appear to be that loose. We can change it. Certainly can change it. I've got a replacement belt that will fit in there for sure. I'm seeing how the gears work on this. There's probably a worm gear on this somewhere. Okay, it goes into another gear. I think probably the belt is a little bit on the weak side, and that's why it was slipping. So let me go dig out a new belt. I could probably use one of those belts I use on the Tascam DAT machines, because it's a small little belt. It's very, very small, about the size of a dime. Let me go dig out a belt. We'll replace the belt, because I bet you that's all that's wrong. It got to the end of its travel, and it was slipping, so it wouldn't eject. And I got to pull this apart too, because the backlight's out. We'll see if we can replace that. Let me see if I find a new belt. So do you see the new belt? It's almost invisible, isn't it? It's right there. It's quite small, but they do stretch. These are very stretchy, these belts. So I think maybe what I'll do is I'll unplug, just so that nothing gets damaged. I'll unplug this ribbon cable here as well, just to get it out of the way. It's just as easy to take it off on this side, so we'll just do this one. There. That gets that out of the way, so I don't have to worry about damaging it. Might be easier if I pop I think I can pop this mechanism out. It might be easier if I just take out these two screws and lift out the transport. I need to probably take it out anyway to get to the light that's burned out. Okay. That belt is on nicely now. This is a gear that drives. This is a worm gear down here that drives another one. I'm going to put a tiny bit of lubricant on there, just the smallest amount. I don't need it flying around and getting on the belt I just changed. And it probably also wouldn't hurt just to put a little bit onto these other gears. I'm just going to use my lithium grease and dab a tiny bit on. In this case, I don't even need to open up the tube. We'll just pick up some spillage and put a little bit of grease into the gears here. And the same goes for the gears up top here. And one thing we don't want to touch, especially if you've got static electricity in your body, you don't want to touch any of these connections down here because you could blow up the laser. And normally it's connected to the main board. Right now it's in a danger zone. When you're working on the lasers, you should really put a jumper across these terminals down here on the flex cable. Right, that's what shorts out the two lasers, both the CD and the red laser for DVD. Shorts them out so that they don't get zapped by static electricity charges that could come down those wires if you were to touch them with static in your body. Which I don't have because I'm touching stuff that's grounded. What you don't see me do off camera a lot of times is I'll touch the tripod. My metal tripod is sitting on the ground, it's grounded, and I will touch that to dissipate any static charge from my body if I've moved. If I've gotten up out of the chair, for example, and sat back down, I always touch something metal to discharge any buildup of static electricity in my body, especially before touching anything that could be ESD. So next I want to open up the display and just see what we need for a lamp for that, because the display light is out. So we'll just pop out all these screws. See what this uses for a light source. There's probably also some switches on the DVD side of things that might need to be cleaned. But what do we got here for lighting? Is it LED or is it incandescent? This is the display. Let's just, I'm going to try 6 volts and see whether the LEDs light up. Oh, the LEDs light up. So the display, it's not the lights that are out. The display might be controlled from something else in the unit itself. Okay, there are more slides inside here that need to be lubricated. I can see these move back and forth when the disc is in. So I'm just putting the mechanism through its paces by hand. Everything seems to be turning fairly smoothly now. I'm just going to put a bit more grease down on some of these gears here that activate when the disc is loading and unloading. So there's a few more cogs down here that I think I should probably need to put a bit of grease on. Again, we don't need much, just to stop them from sticking. I think what probably happened is that when it wound down all the way, it got stuck on the worm gear and just didn't turn. And when I turned it out by hand, I see it was stuck. It was stuck in the fully down position, and when I first went to turn this was all the way down, and I had to actually give it quite a bit of pressure on here when I first turned that to undock it. As you can see, there's a worm gear here, and that meshes with another gear below here that operates the elevator part. This pulley here operates the rollers that pull the disc in, and then the gear from below here is what operates the mechanism. And it was definitely stuck when I started on this thing. So we put a new belt in it and lubricate the mechanism. I can actually operate that motor electrically here just to work all the grease in. If I just take my power supply, I've got it down at about 4 volts. This way I can spin the motor and it will lubricate the gears. If I put the disc in and get power, it pulls the disc all the way in, and if I give it power the other way here, this should eject the disc. There we go. And disc in. That's how it's supposed to work. We'll grease the rails in here as well. First of all, the worm screw that the laser is driven with, we'll lubricate that. And we'll lubricate the rail over here. Can drive that back and forth as well. It's the yellow and orange wire comes up here. So orange and yellow, if I give it a couple volts, we'll set the power supply down at around 3.3 volts. Yellow and orange here should drive the pickup back and forth. I don't know which way goes where, but we'll see. That's driving it forward. And driving it back the other way. There we go. So that moves smoothly. So I've got the unit fired up without the front panel on, obviously. Just going to check some voltages here. Got the CD drive sitting in there. Just check some voltages here on this display and see what's happening. So if I use a common ground reference, do I have voltage? I got nothing. I got 0.5. I got nothing. I got nothing. Interesting. Okay. I'm looking for a source for 5 volts that we can feed it. So I know that this one's ground. I know this lead here is ground. But I don't know where the other one goes to. I'll probably test it from ground on here as well. But let's just see where I've got power. Oh, okay. That transistor appears to control the lights. Oh, look. That transistor controls. It's a dimmer of some type. So if I just short those two together, those lights will light up. This has got to be a dimmer of some type, and it's gone out. See, if I just touch the base, interesting. See, I can just put a little jumper in there, and those lights should light up right there. You see, or even on that one. That's the lights. So I think that's what I'm going to do. He says the lights aren't working. I'll make the lights work. I bet you they'll stay on though when I turn off the power. They're probably supposed to go out when you turn off the power. No, maybe not. It has a clock in it. I bet it's a dimmer is what it is. See, now it's on. And now it's off. Okay, that's a simple one. I'm sure what it is there's a dimmer circuit in here so that the lights can be dimmed down. That might even be a button on the remote for dim, for bright or dim, for the clock display. And it's gone right out. That's all I can think is it's gone right out. But anyway, it's simple enough to make it work. They just asked if I could fix the light and make it eject the disc and play. We know it's playing, so that part's fine. So I think this is probably the transistor that controls it here. Let's just give it the wet finger and see whether the lights come on. Ah, when I touch this, the lights come up a bit. So somewhere in here something controls these lights. And it's right here. Right in around where this resistor is. I wonder if it's a connection. Look at that. Okay. There might be a connection. I'm just going to take a close look at this area here of the board and just see whether that may be a connection problem in there. Can I get a good close-up? Is my camera going to be in focus for me? I wonder, this is where I was touching, was right in this area here. And just skin resistance is enough to bring it on. Is it a cracked board? Or is it that resistor? I'll disconnect power, and I'm just going to resolder that resistor in here. I'm looking at what I'm doing on the big monitor over my bench here, as opposed to looking at actually at the board because it's so bloody small. Okay, that definitely reflowed. Does the display come on? Nope, still not. It's most certainly something in this circuit, right in this area here. So I've just reflowed some of the connections in this area here. This seems to be where the trouble was, because when I put my finger in there, wet finger, it lit up. So let's just see what happens now when I turn it on. Okay, I got power right away. I believe I've got it. See, when it's turned off, it still needs the lights on here so that the time display shows. So the lights on here run all the time anyway. So I guess just a connection in this one of these. I did these chip resistors, a couple capacitors, this transistor. I didn't do that one because it was before that. So I just resoldered these parts here, and it's now working, which is good. Let's throw it back together. So once again, I'll remove the zero insertion force socket, and I'll mount the circuit board back onto the front panel. Make sure that that display is clean. I'll just give it a wipe. Put the board back in place and put all the screws back in. my neighbors decided to pressure wash his driveway. So these people know that I record audio here. Gas pressure washers go electric. They're a lot quieter. All right, let's load the disc. It says loading. The video display should come on, which it just did. Jensen designed to move you. Right. And play. Whoops. I guess I have to wait for this to go, that's why. Gotta wait for that stupid FBI warning and all the other crap that they display on the beginning of the disc. I got the screws to put back in here all wrapped up in duct tape. Okay, if I hit play, it should now play the entire show. Which I can't show you, because, you know, because that would be hitting copyright pretty quick, so we'll stop this before we get into the copyright portion. As you can see, display is nice and bright now. No one's going to complain about that. You can read it. Eject. And there's the disc. I would say that this one is done. I just got to throw the screws back into it and give the owner a call and let them know that their entertainment system for their motorhome or trailer or whatever it came out of is ready to go. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you in the next one. Bye.